I almost lost that ability to love in a way, because this strips you back to the point where you sort of feel more animal than human. And certainly I'd lost any sense of femininity. I created this strain or this barrier that he didn't know how to break through. So it was often the reconnecting. That was one of the most challenging parts.
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to the elders both past and present. My name's Ali Dado. This is my hubby.
Cam Dado.
My hubby.
Is that one word?
I ran that together.
Yeah. My hubby.
My hubby.
I might have to use that. She's my wifey.
My wifey and my hubby.
So I was thinking about this. We've got a pretty incredible couple coming in today, and based on the job that we do in entertainment, it's pretty awesome. We get to do some wonderful things. We meet amazing people and we have unique experiences along the way. You've had a few. Did anything come to mind? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, amazing experiences.
People or experiences because of what we do, what we get to do.
Well, often it's actually through what you get to do. That I get secondhand, meeting. Oh, I got to meet Tom Cruise. I guess that was pretty exciting. And
or stand in a prayer circle with Janet Jackson before a show.
Yeah. But I mean, the people that we've actually met on this show have really provided me with the most incredidible experiences and knowledge and learnings. I think consistently that's where I've been so grateful is having the guests and who we've met, and that's through doing this job.
Yeah. Well, I was asked to interview an author about a book that she'd written, and I thought, that's great, I'll do that. Well, turns out that the author is a human that has achieved something truly remarkable, and she wrote about it.
Yeah. Bonnie Hancock spent 254 days at sea in a surf kayak. Holy moly. Covering 12,700 kilometres as she circumnavigated this island we call home, Australia. She encountered seasickness, sharks, crocs, and of course wrestled with the most dynamic environment on this planet, the ocean.
So whilst doing this, she became the fastest ever paddler to circumnavigate the continent by paddle, the first Aussie woman to circumnavigate the continent by paddle, the youngest person to do so. She also achieved a new world record for the longest 24-hour paddle, covering a distance of 234 kilometres. 234 kilometres. That's more than a guy's done it as well.
Yeah. She's done some of the most incredible things. And often people who do the most incredible things, there is a team behind them.
Sure.
There's a partner behind them.
Kids sometimes.
Someone who supports and picks up the slack and keeps the wheels greased. And Bonnie sure has that in her husband, Matt.
They're both with us today to tell us about this historical event and how they managed to get it done. Welcome to the bathroom, Bonnie Hancock and her husband, Matt Palmer. Bonnie and Matt, welcome to Separate Bathrooms. What a privilege to have you both. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. We are so excited to be on.
Thank you.
Can you give us some context? Who's Bonnie Hancock and Matt? When did you get married? How did you meet? Where'd you grow up? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, you start.
I don't mind. So myself, I grew up in Sawtell, beautiful tiny little town in Coffs Harbour. Population of 2,000 people. So I very much call myself a country kid. From the age of 12, I wanted to be a professional iron woman. So I knew that wasn't going to happen in Coffs Harbour. So moved to what I call the bright lights of the Gold Coast at 17 to pursue that goal. And, living in surfer's paradise, that was a bit of a shock to the system as a very naive 17-year-old. But I managed to make the professional series and race in that series for the better part of a decade. And I met Matt. What year do we actually meet? 2014.
2014. Yeah. So
yes.
I'm from North Queensland, up in Mackay, and a little bit of a different path. I didn't follow a sporting as an athlete. I follow a little bit of a sporting path from a professional point of view. So I went up to university in Townsville and then found my way down to the Gold Coast and working in professional AFL, the Gold Coast Suns, first out. So yeah, a little bit of a different. That's how I found my way to the Gold Coast, and 2014, I think we
he slid into my DMs on
first
Facebook.
cross paths.
So Matt, were you a footy player?
Mate, not an elite level, but I loved AFL growing up as a kid. I tested myself in all different sports. I love surf lifesaving as well, so it helped when Bonnie and I's paths crossed. So growing up in North Queensland, we've also got a little bit of a different aspect. Not as many waves, but more crocodiles and stingers and things like that to play with, which ended up helping later on in our journey. So,
I know, I can't wait to get into that. But Bonnie, I have to ask you though, a 12-year-old girl wanting to be an Iron Woman, had you seen Coolangatta Gold? I mean, what was that at the age of 12 that made you decide that was a goal?
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned Coolangatta Gold, Ali, because that was iconic. And, they created that movie to, get the crowd there and build the hype. And back in those days, Guy Leach, Trevor Handy, Grant Kenny, they were household names. And for me, it was watching Carla Gilbert run around in the Meadowlee series. So my sister Courtney and I just wanted to be Carla, basically. And, we moved to the Gold Coast. We knew Carla had trained on the Gold Coast, and that was our very first role model. So we just wanted to be Carla.
That's so cool. I love that.
There is that iconic line from the father in Coolangatta Gold when they're in the helicopter above the beach, and he's saying, "What do you think? You get paid $20 and girls do this?" And here you or something like that.
Yes, and girls do it.
Girls do it. It's so funny.
And when my sister Courtney and I did it, we were only allowed to go half of the distance of the men's, and the prize money was actually half. So it was only about 5 years ago they introduced the full course for the women, and there's pay parity now. So it actually took all of that time until, 2018 or so.
Amazing. And Matt, for you, Bonnie said that you slid into her DMs. Had you seen her doing her stuff at the beach? Is that why you slid in?
I think naturally, yes. So I think that might have been definitely a part of it. No, we had some mutual friends, and I think I probably didn't think too much about that at that time. I was still, now I'm 31. I think I was 21 back then, so I'm not sure what I was thinking, to be honest. But it naturally occurred after the slide in. So,
but our first date wasn't great.
Wasn't ideal. No.
We eventually met up after about 6 months of talking online, and Matt was sort of travelling with the Gold Coast Suns, and we went for a frozen yogurt date in Broadbeach, and I was nervous, he was nervous, and I spilled all of the toppings over the bench for the yogurt in the car. We just didn't click. And at the end of the night, I think we both knew it wasn't really going to happen. And Matt sort of leant in to just give me a kiss on the cheek, and his seatbelt locked and he was thrown back into his seat. And I then awkwardly, not knowing what to do, gotten out of the car. I could smell the burnt rubber as he tore off down the road. We didn't speak for another year after that. And we went our separate ways. And after a year, I was sort of looking through some messages on my phone and thought, oh my gosh, that boy was so lovely, like as a friend. We just never, pursued anything after that. I'm going to get in touch just to catch up. And that second date, everything was different. There was a chemistry that wasn't there on the first date. It was just, I literally had the thought, like, this is going to be the guy I marry. It was just crazy. And we were both different people after that year. We'd grown a lot. Matt was permanently on the Gold Coast at that time. And from then we were pretty much inseparable.
So what did that text go like? It's like, I promise I won't spill my toppings everywhere, and we're not allowed to be in a car, so you can't have a seatbelt on.
I think tactically,
can we give it another crack?
I think tactically from my end, it was just trying to eliminate all the things that could go wrong from my end, and let it sit from there. But no, it was lovely to reconnect, and I think things are meant to be sometimes, and that was definitely one of those moments.
We were in separate cars and caught up for a body surf at the beach, so very Gold Coast, and yes, it was
in your element, right? In your element,
right, safe zone.
And how long you are married? Yes,
yeah.
How long have you been married for?
So 2019. We actually figured out the other day.
Okay.
That's coming up to...
Yeah, we actually got married on Halloween. Which is no plan.
As you do.
No plan other than it was a nice date and a free date, but also with COVID, it was at a time where availabilities and people were cancelling weddings and things. So we took the opportunity to make the most of the time and the date, and we went from there. And it's something hopefully we won't forget as a date on a wedding anniversary.
It was crazy because the border was still closed between Queensland and New South Wales. So our relatives in New South Wales couldn't come up. Only 20 people were allowed on the dance floor at a time. You weren't allowed to eat the cake. You could cut it, but then had to give out cupcakes. So planning a wedding amid COVID was just, it was stressful, but the day was just magical. It did hail on that day and several people got damage to their car, but
funny fun stories.
And they're going, damn you, black hearts. You know, it really is a trick or treat fest.
100%. The sky just opened up and turned green. And, they say rain is lucky. I don't know what hail is, but...
That's right. Yeah, I haven't heard. Let's just say it's lucky, extra lucky.
Exactly.
Let's just say that for now. I love it.
So, Bonnie, look, I met you a few weeks ago. We were talking about your amazing book, The Girl Who Touched the Stars. It's about the circumnavigation. I just thought, as I'm talking with you about and hearing you talk about the book, I just thought you and Matt would be so great to have on the podcast to talk about your relationship and what you actually went through when you were doing this incredible feat that you've done. So got a ton of questions about it, and I'd love to talk to you more. First of all, how did you conceive doing this, and why did you conceive this circumnavigation of our fabulous island called Australia?
Totally. Our beautiful, rugged, terrifying, amazing coastline, right? I never, ever grew up wanting to break a record or even pursue ultra endurance activities in any way. I was a sprint Iron woman. The furthest we raced was 10 minutes races, other than the Coolangatta Gold, which is an exception once a year. But in 2020, amid COVID, I read a book pretty much a year after Matt and I married, so that wasn't part of the wedding vows or any promises there. But I read a book, and it was about the woman who had the record before me, Freya Hofmeister, and I think it was from about a chapter in. I just had a gut feeling. It was just like, this is something I not only want to, but need to do. And whether it was that need for adventure, we'd just come out of lockdown and, things were just opening up. I wanted to do it. And I looked at Matt and said, I think I can do it. And he said, do what? And I said, I've read this book about a woman who's paddled around Australia. I think I can do that. And I just got a blank stare back, like not knowing what to say, wanting to be supportive, but where on earth has this come from? And I said, we'll revisit it in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, we did revisit it. And Matt said, okay, do a bit of research. He's very practical. We're probably different in that way. I'm jump first, think later. But for 6 months, I went back and forth and thought of all the reasons not to do this. I tried to talk myself out of it. As we do, that self-doubt popped up. And after 6 months, I imagined myself as an old lady sitting there not having done this paddle. I had a sick feeling of regret and thought, stuff that. I would rather give this a crack and fail. And what is failing is at trying something and learning something about yourself. And to his credit, Matt was there every step of the way. It was an exorbitant amount of money that was required. And, logistically, there was some of the biggest challenges. But December 2021, I set off from the shores of Mermaid Beach here on the Gold Coast and turned right and kept going for 8 months and did a big clockwise loop around Australia on an 8-kilogram carbon fibre surf ski.
It just sounds, as someone, I'm not very comfortable in the ocean, even on a flat day. It just sounds like the most mammoth, brave experience that I could ever think of. I'd rather walk across hot coals than probably be in a little tiny boat out on the ocean. How did you begin to even, were you fundraising for it? Did you have someone helping you with that? Did you have a team behind you?
Yeah, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars required. So, one of the first things we did, we put our thinking caps on and sat down and thought, all right, what can we contribute? We actually sold both of our cars. And to Matt's credit, he rode around on a push bike, as did I, for 6 months leading in. We thought every dollar we can raise, we put our life savings into this, and it was just a drop in the ocean of funds required. So then it was about reaching out to our network, and in the end, we came up short. I approached 20 sponsors, and it wasn't until the 21st approach that I got a yes. We had the money to get halfway around, so we had to continue to raise funds. And what we realised early on was that Matt would actually be on shore for this trip because we couldn't come up with the money required. So he was the best person to continue to raise sponsorship money. So he was on the boat for a few weeks, and then for the rest of the 12,000 kilometres, we were separated with 500 kilometres of ocean between us, and there's no reception out there in the middle of the ocean. So while I was taking on these incredibly difficult crocodile-infested waters, 5 to 6 metre swells, Matt was on land just watching the little boat make its way across via the AIS tracker. So, yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges that I never saw coming and never knew how hard that would be emotionally, to be separated from your loved one when you need them most.
Matt, take us through the feeling that you had when Bonnie said to you, I'm doing this.
Honestly, I didn't want to be a dampener and say, hey, there's 1, 2, 3 dangers, and this, from a financial point, that is going to be really struggle, and I'm not sure we could do that. So I actually didn't say anything because I knew saying something would probably be a bit of a hindrance in Bonnie's overall joy and energy that she was bringing towards it. So I think I really had to grow in the sense of holding any of my thoughts and not putting them into words, and then trying to come up with solutions of some of the thoughts I had that we might have problems with. So yeah, it was scary because it's obviously, dangerous out there, and it's obviously things out of your control. We talk about sharks and shark attacks, and weeks before we left, there was fatal shark attacks at places that we were going to be visiting in weeks' time. So that stuff is scary, and we're really fortunate enough to live on the beach. But with seeing that at the beach every day, we know its capabilities, and sometimes it doesn't fall in your favour. So yeah, I was definitely scared, but I knew I had to probably hold on to that to maybe not put a dampener on the party. So,
and Matt, when, gosh, I can't even imagine, Bonnie's out there, or the only contact you've got, as she said, is seeing this tiny little boat blip on the screen. You can't reach her. You have no idea where she is emotionally, mentally. How was that then for you? What was your life like?
Yeah, it was really tricky. I was really fortunate enough to have a couple of tasks to follow. I wasn't sitting in idle thinking all the time on Bonnie and how she might be. I had some, chasing sponsorship or logistics for the next spot, or coming up with some, food drop for the next location. So it was really great to have some tasks. And I think the second part was knowing that there was a team out there caring for her, that she wasn't entirely on her own. She did have a crew of people we put together that we knew that they would go above and beyond to support her physically, emotionally as well. So that was probably for me, that probably helped get me through, because I feel like those tasks and having trust of the crew to know that she'd be looked after was really positive.
Bonnie, you told me that with the separation, you were out there and you went through so many different things, which you so eloquently write about in your book. And that when you got back together with Matt, you didn't have words to actually explain what you'd been through. Can you just sort of describe that situation a bit?
Totally. It was almost traumatic, really, what we went through, particularly in the Great Australian Bight. So I had a choice to make on this trip whether to hug the coast in the Great Australian Bight, one of the most dangerous stretches of water at the very bottom of the country. When you look at the map of Australia, there's 2 big chunks and, almost cut out, which is the Gulf of Carpentaria at the top and the Great Australian Bight at the bottom. It's it's huge out there, it's scary. And I made the choice to cut across because it would save me 1,000 kilometres. But every single day of those 12 days, I would say to my crew, have I made the right decision? Is this worth it? We had most of the crew hanging over the railing, violently seasick. I lost 8 kilograms in 2 weeks. I held no food down and had to get taken straight to hospital. And, you know, after going through all of this, paddling over 100K a day still anyway, even though I could only crawl when I got on the boat because I lost all strength in my lower body. When I got to shore, I didn't know what to say. Matt was there. He was excited to see me. I remember so clearly he had a new haircut and a new shirt on, and he was just so excited about the occasion. And I remember staying down in my cabin. I didn't want to go up because I didn't have the words. I describe it, and it's taken me all this time to kind of realize that I almost lost that ability to love in a way, because this strips you back to the point where you sort of feel more animal than human. And certainly I'd lost any sense of femininity that, I usually have as well. And that part of me, so much of me was invested emotionally and mentally in just getting through every day, that when I got to shore, it felt safer to me to stay in the bubble and on the boat and almost block out the real world in a way. So, I did eventually have to come up out of that boat, and I did see Matt, but, through fault of my own, I created this strain or this barrier that he didn't know how to break through. So I was so incredibly glad to have Benny, our crewmate on land, supporting Matt. But it was often the reconnecting that was one of the most challenging parts of the trip, or lack thereof, I guess.
It's like you're on different planets in a way, because I'm sure for Matt, I know I cannot ever imagine what you went through, Bonnie, in those 12 days. So
just 500 kilometres off the coast, right?
It just terrifies the absolute crap out of me. Like, I can't think of anything more scary.
I think the context I give is, when I talk to the kids, I explain that it's 40 kilometres you can see from the beach to the horizon. So I was on average 100K out each day, and 500K out to sea. The water's different out there. It changes almost to a dark navy to a black. You can't see your hand under it. So you're paddling. Sometimes you can't get within 100 metres of your catamaran. It's a 10-ton catamaran. It's potentially fatal if it hits you. So you're on your own. It's you and your headphones. And I can tell you there's only so much house music you can listen to all day. And when you take those headphones out, what hits you is how quiet it is. It's so quiet out there. And it did take me a few months to adapt back to pace of life on land when I finished this paddle. And that was something I didn't anticipate either, just crossing roads and being able to walk in a straight line in a supermarket. Matt helped me through that when I got back.
Wow. I saw a video the other day of what it's like for astronauts when they come back from out of space and they will just drop their coffee cup because gravity's gone, and one woman just fainted because she still was getting used to Earth's gravity. So it's the same thing that you must have felt. Yeah.
I was paddling, 16, 18 hours a day. So you're spending more time in the ski on this ocean. It's, just like a roller coaster at times. And I explained I felt more like a creature of the ocean, yet Matt was on land and, very much part of real life, getting all of the rejections for sponsorship, as he said, that helped him in a way to be preoccupied with that. And so, very much living in that world. I would get back to shore and be told, Shane Warne's passed away. There's a war in the Ukraine. This actually happened a month ago. So it was a bubble. It was like Big Brother out there, just you and your crew, and not really reality.
Matt, how was it for you being faced with your, the love of your life, the person that you're working really hard to keep out there? You wanted to be on the water, you're doing that, and yet here's this situation where she's feeling like she can't face you.
Yeah, naturally pretty tough. It's going back. It's actually been a really nice thing for me to go back to the book and reading the book and understanding Bonnie's thoughts when there was a couple of moments in time where I'd obviously couldn't hold my poker face as long as I liked, and Bonnie could. She was an expert at it. But it was, when reading the book, it was really nice to connect on the point where she actually spoke about how she felt, and to know that she was feeling the same. It was really, now made it easier. But if I could go back in time, I probably just reassure myself to know that everything was going to be okay. But you definitely probably don't realize how much you depend on your loved one, just whether it's in communication or physical touch or anything along those lines. So when that's taken away, in a sense, but it's just there, it's definitely a tricky little task.
In a way, there were things I hadn't told Matt that I wrote in the book, and I was sitting on the couch reading it next to me, getting a bit emotional because I couldn't find the words, but I could write them. And I think that's why writing is so powerful, whether it's a letter or a journal entry. Sometimes we don't have the words verbally, but I was able to write them down. So Matt sat there and read the book, and that was really, really special to be able to finally let him know how I was feeling.
I really relate to Matt because sometimes when Cam goes away for luxury escapes and he does like these incredible trips and flies business class and comes home, like it's really similar.
Yeah, because I can't speak about it.
He can't speak about it.
I don't.
Or else
I'll get a saucepan thrown at me. Hey,
exactly the same as you guys.
As Ali said, I relate to what you're saying, Bonnie, because Ali wrote a book about menopause as she went through it, right? And then during that time, it was almost like, yes, we were living in the same house, we were going through COVID, all that sort of stuff, but here was my wife. I just felt like was sometimes an ocean away from me, and I didn't understand what she was going through because she didn't also have the words. She didn't really know what she was going through, and then on one of my trips, sitting in business class on luxury escapes in the Singapore Airlines jumbo jet, I'm reading this book, blubbering. Because Al's book, it wasn't a Jack Reacher book. I was reading Alison's book, and in tears because I was getting a much better understanding, or getting, she was filling me in. And one of my crew members said, "How's the book?" And I said, "I feel like she wrote it for me."
Yeah,
because I feel like she wrote it for me because now I was understanding what it was. And then I said, but the beauty of this book is, and it's the same with your book, Bonnie, as a reader, I felt like when I was reading Ali's book, she was writing it for me. And then I realized that when I read your book, I feel like you're writing your book for me too, which is a really great thing for both of you women as writers, that you made me, the reader, feel like you're writing it for me. And I said that to a mate of mine about Ali's book. I said, she's written a book for me, but no, she's written it for you too. And he read the book and he's like, oh my God, how cool is this?
So true.
Totally.
So well done. Well done.
I was just going to ask Matt, was there ever a point where you actually wanted to just call the whole, not the marriage, but call the whole trip off? Were you enough, Bonnie, you've been through enough, you've got to just come home and it's too hard, trying to raise money or whatever it is. But did you ever want to call it off?
Yeah, interesting question, because I actually no, because I knew how much it meant to her. I had this mindset. It was probably a mindset which was funny. I put the record aside and everything like that. If we had to stay in a location for 2 months for Bonnie to get her stuff and gather herself together to start paddling again, that was going to have to be I wasn't letting her come home without finishing, essentially, because I knew how much she wanted it. So, there was definitely selfish moments, but I never really got selfish in the point of this is too much for us or the marriage or anything like that. It was, I just knew how much she wanted it. So I just had to try and pull, and we definitely made some different decisions and brought some different people in when I knew she definitely needed new faces and new energy and whatnot. We brought some of Bond's coach and, some different family members and friends and different, mixed up our crew. So I kind of read how, when it was getting to a head, I read the scenario of it busting. We just didn't go near it. So
I
definitely got frustrated, but I definitely never got to the point of oh no, I want to throw it in, because I just knew how much it meant to her.
One of the genius moves Matt made was bringing my coach on from back home for the final stretch. And, throughout this whole trip, I had the most incredible crew of young men who actually came on to be videographers and learnt how to sail and cook and all of these things. But I was essentially my own coach for 6 months, and I was deciding how far I would paddle each day. I was breaking it up to in sections in my mind and sort of doing that part as well as the physical part. As a coach, athlete, we're very good at following instructions, and I just almost wanted someone to tell me what to do on some days. And Matt read that, and he called my coach, who didn't hesitate in giving that yes. And that's what got me through the Kimberley, the most, one of the most physically demanding stretches. It was 32 degrees in the water. It was 43 degrees ambient temperature. So, it's searing hot. You're trying to avoid heat stroke. And just to have someone say, break this 90-kilometre section down, 330s, that's what we're going to do. We're going to start off at 50%. We're going to build up and, break it down in a certain way. That helped me so much. So I think, Matt's very humble and won't take the credit. But if he hadn't been there on this trip making those calls, I don't know if I would have got to the end mentally as much as anything. And, there were times where I wanted to throw the towel in, and my crew and Matt weren't going to let me do that because they knew I would forever regret it. So I'm always indebted to them for making those calls and reading me better than I could read myself sometimes.
This might sound a bit of it's a dumb question, but as you're doing a circumnavigation, how do you measure? Like you said, you're coming off and sleeping on the shore sometimes. You're obviously in the boat too when you're in the bight. How do you measure the route?
Yep.
How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely a fair question. So Guinness World Records state that you've got to start and stop in the exact same place to the metre. So on the boat, you have what's called a chart plotter. It's navigation. And where I would stop, the skipper would mark that in the chart plotter in that exact spot, whether that was the skipper of the fishing boat, the jet ski, the big catamaran, whatever vessel it was. They would mark that spot. When I would get out, we would come back to that spot to the metre. So that means if we had drifted 30 kilometres, we'd have to motor back 30 kilometres, or we would have to head back out to sea 10 kilometres or 20 kilometres to that spot, which was incredibly frustrating, sitting on a boat when you're seasick, motoring into these swells to get back to that spot. But basically at the end, when you submit all of your GPS data, it's through what's called a GPX file. We've got 254 days of files that have to line up perfectly, basically creating the route around Australia. So there's no sort of way to cheat it, which is great. They're incredibly strict on it, plus all the logs and witness statements. So it would have taken a few months to collate all the data to actually submit to Guinness World Records.
Bonnie, there's days that I wake up and I don't want to do my second day of my 1-hour Pilates class. How on earth, did you just wake up? Was there ever a day that you woke up and went, I just don't want to paddle today. I don't want to go out on the ocean. Like, did you ever feel like that? And if you did, how did you overcome that?
There were honestly times where halfway through the day I would put my paddle down and go, I can't take another stroke. After 2 months, the challenges went from physical to mental because I could physically sit in a ski. I'd conditioned my body, as you both know, anything you train for, your body conditions to that load. But it was isolating, it was lonely and, anxiety inducing with all of the creatures in the water. But I remember telling myself, just get to the next 10 kilometres. You don't have to look beyond that. And sometimes it was just getting to the next 1 kilometre. And you never know what's going to happen after that next kilometre. You could start feeling really good. And each time I would tell myself as I put my paddle down and stunk into that sense of self-pity, just look to the next kilometre, then the next and the next. And that's how you string together this day of, 254 kilometres at my furthest in one day. And you don't start that day looking at it as a whole.
Which was a record, by the way.
It was a
Congratulations.
Thank you very
Don't just throw that away.
Amazing.
Come on
Thank
now.
You. It's I was on it. It was 150 kilometres in 24 hours was the previous world records for females in one day. And when I got back from the trip, I found out I'd done 213 kilometres. I had the female record, and I found out the men's record was 228 kilometres. So knowing me, I looked at Matt again and said, I've got an idea. And 2 weeks after, we went back up to Airlie Beach, and, it's very windy in North Queensland. You want those favourable conditions. And with the original crew, we went and broke another record. And I'm probably most proud of that record because I tore my bicep 70K in and had that choice whether to stop or not. And I think after 254 days of paddling around Australia, my mentality was quite strong, and I was very stubborn. I'm often stubborn to the point where it can sometimes be dangerous, and my crew have to step in and make sure I'm okay. But we got it done. I'm really proud of that one.
I still come back to the Coolangatta Gold quote. If it was easier to be $20 and girls would do it, and you've kicked every bloke's ass. It's so great.
Matt has. I mean, have you had any of these crazy ideas yourself now? Are you like, yeah, I think I want to kick a footy all the way around Australia? Like, so you got something in mind?
Not at all. I love adventure, and I was really fortunate enough to be able to have, moments of my own adventure when everything was smooth sailing. So there was, camped in some really iconic locations and on islands and different places where I was doing some research ahead of Bonnie. So there was some beautiful places that I got to see before she did. And I definitely have the want for adventure, but I think I'll leave the endurance activities up to Bon.
There was just the other day when, what did you tell me? You did something amazing with Ben on shore, or you went and had this beautiful dinner, or you did something.
Yeah, there was a few lobster dinners and oysters at Coffin Bay.
I didn't hear about this at the time. I found out after the fact. Yeah.
He was smart not to tell you.
Yeah. I have a feeling there'll be stories surfacing for many years. Oh, this reminds me of the time. Oh, you weren't there. That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The book is The Girl Who Touched the Stars. What do you think people are going to be surprised about reading your book, Bonnie?
Yeah, I think and hope how willing I am to just get raw and real and show the ugly parts. And whether that's me stumbling my way to the toilet as I'm trying not to vomit all over the floor, or whether that's me looking in the mirror, looking 90 years old and reflecting what it's like to lose any sense of femininity and literally feel animalistic, or whether that's, what it's like to sit in the water 500K out to sea and be terrified and think you've bitten off more than you can chew. I was willing to go there. And in terms of the strain on the marriage, I looked at Matt and said, I don't want to write this book without sort of essentially your permission to include some of those really hard chats we had when I said, I need a break, I don't want to be with you anymore, those sorts of things. And he said, to his credit, he said, not only should you, but you have to, because you're not doing justice to yourself, me, or the crew if you don't include those parts. And so many times that comes with the beautiful sections as well. And there was a part when we crossed the Bight and got across safely on Door Island, the most magical place in the world to me. The sunset was incredible and we deserved it after what we'd been through. So I wanted to show the ugly and the beautiful, and often they go hand in hand. And in a world where often what we see is filtered, I wanted to, as I say, get gritty with it and get ugly. So that's what I did.
For the both of you, this is a question. If you knew what you know now, would you do it all over again?
Yes. I don't know. I can't answer for Matt.
Yeah, Matt's like, well, I like my car.
So much wiser.
Yeah, we would have made things. Would have made things in a place and brought different people on the journey. I think if we could change some different things, maybe giving ourselves the best opportunity to experience each other's stories and love in a different way, and not trying to have to work it out on the fly. But I think there was plenty of great lessons, and we'd love to take it and earn another adventure somewhere else.
We'll say we hope someone breaks this record one day, and we'll be there to give them whatever that advice they want, if they want it. And I think a sense of naivety protects you to some degree, but we would be a hell of a lot wiser. But I don't know, to me, I think it's made us stronger on a whole.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bonnie, this journey, it's your journey sort of thing, but it's actually both of your journey. You both had your version of it. I'll start with you, Matt. What did you learn about yourself on this journey?
I think the ability to trust others and look at problems in a different light. I think I used to probably take a fair bit on and try and solve all the problems myself, and I think, to become very solutions orientated. It doesn't matter how big the problem might be, whether it be life-threatening or just something very minor. But yeah, I think for me, really use the people around you, and any problem in life can be sorted with the right support, whether it's friends or family or just the people around you that you need to have in your close circle to fill up your cup. I think that's really important to always lean on them.
And how about you, Bonnie? What did you learn about yourself?
Totally. A few things. I found the ability to lead, and I learnt that you don't always have to have the loudest voice in the room to lead. You can lead by example, and I had to find my voice with an all-male crew and step up and make room for myself in those meetings to say my 2 cents, because that can be incredibly difficult. I know for a lot of females, and often particularly as athletes, we're not in that position to lead all the time. We're good at taking instructions. So I feel a lot more confident leading now. I'm in the fortunate position of coaching where I get to practice that every day. But I also learnt the importance of whatever you're doing to just take a step back and look around and appreciate that moment. Give yourself a pat on the back and appreciate the beauty and often the mundane. And for me, that would be in the middle of the ocean where I can't lift my paddle above my belly button. I'm so sore, to actually look in and look into the coast and just appreciate it. And that's when my physical performance started getting better too. So look up and out and appreciate the beauty and find the silver linings.
Clearly, you went through so much. Is there just one moment, and maybe it is the title of the book, but is there one moment that stands out the most as the most sort of profound moment for you that you would perhaps like to even revisit, if possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So The Girl Who Touched the Stars refers to, firstly, in the middle of the bite, where I'd fallen out of my ski at night time. There was no moon, it was freezing. And I remember looking up, and with no light pollution out there, the stars are more beautiful than I can ever really describe. And it felt like I could touch them. Literally, felt like they were so close. But when I got to the final 2 kilometres of this paddling into Mermaid Beach, the sun was out and it was reflecting on the water, creating this amazing sort of illusion like there were stars on the water. And I finally had touched those stars. I skimmed my hand along the water. It was like I was grabbing them. We had the gold. We had the record. It was the big win I'd always been chasing. And in that moment, I realised that the record wasn't the most valuable thing from this paddle. It was everything I learnt along the way. What I learned about myself, reconnecting with Matt, the teamwork, having to lead. It was all of the wisdom, essentially, I gathered in 8 months. And, that materialistic sort of thing of that world record wasn't enough to keep me going. But it took me the whole way around to realise that the prize was the lessons.
It's goosebumps.
Matt, as Bonnie was experiencing that, the last 2Ks, what were you feeling?
Yeah, pure joy. Obviously, we put a lot on the line, and when we got down to those last 2 kilometres, I just said to her, just take as long as you like, and there's a GoPro here, and just say what you want to say. So we've got some really nice footage of that, which we'll hopefully be able to share one day soon. So, that just to take it slow and really enjoy it and cherish the moment.
And you've got, as you were saying, Matt, you've got footage, because the plan is, I believe, that there's going to be a documentary about this. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, it's so exciting. We can say it now. Within the next few months, hopefully, we're just in talks about what platform that's going to be streamed on. Working title is Diamond of the Sea, and it is high drama, high action. It is a dive into the Paddle of Oz from a different perspective. There is a mix of GoPro footage taken from the boat. I didn't even realise my crew was there as I was hanging over that railing vomiting. So it's the ugly as well as the beautiful, and we're so excited for it.
I cannot. I love a documentary. Number one, it's my favourite things, and I am there. Let us know. I will promote it. I will see it. I love the sound of it. That's so cool.
Guys, we do a thing called the 2-minute shower. Bonnie, you'll know all about 2-minute showers.
Oh, absolutely. That was the length, but that was max what I was allowed. That was a luxury.
Yeah, right.
Well, there you go. So keep your answers short and both answer the same question.
Okay.
What's your best quality?
Loyalty.
Ooh, that's quick. Yeah, loyalty as well.
Okay.
Nice. Who do you admire?
Bonnie.
Oh, wow. Well, that's no pressure, is it, whatsoever? Well, I was saying that. And again, I think Carla Gilbert for everything she's done off the water as well as on.
Who's scarier, crocodiles or snakes?
Crocodiles. Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, my God. Okay, what do you miss when you're not together?
Having that person, that second opinion and a really trusted opinion, though we don't always agree, just someone to talk it through with.
Yeah, I'm spot on the same. Exactly the same. Just having the ability to bounce anything I need off Bonnie.
You both have unique perspectives, so I'm going to ask you this. What the world needs more of is?
Kindness.
Yeah, love.
Last question. What is your partner in one word?
The person that you want there when things get tough.
Spoken like a true writer.
I would say the person who keeps you most accountable and moving forward.
Yeah, beautiful.
Bonnie and Matt, thank you for joining us in the bathroom today.
Thank you so much for having us. Such a pleasure.
The book is called The Girl Who Touched the Stars. It's in stores now. We cannot wait for the documentary.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, thanks so much for your courage and for sharing your story in such a real way.
Yeah.
Both of you doing that.
Yeah.
'Cause it takes two halves to make a relationship work. And so
absolutely. Thanks for diving into it with us.
It's very clear, speaking to the both of you, how integral Matt was in your success. So you're an amazing, couple. So thanks again for your time and congratulations on everything you've both achieved. It's phenomenal.
Thanks so much.
So appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I told you she was pretty amazing. Not pretty amazing. I told you she was amazing.
She's amazing. Like, I am just, it's just a level of bravery that for me, I don't understand. Like, as you know, my feeling around the ocean, as well, as much as I love it, it's just such a place of terror for me. So maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to do that, honey. Maybe I need to get in a canoe and circumnavigate Australia. Would you be there for me?
I would. But why don't we go from Melbourne to Tasmania? There are islands. There are islands along the way.
Strait.
And you can actually island hop. You canoe and I'll go on a boat.
I think I could probably just go across Narrabeen Lake. I think let's just start there. No, what an amazing couple. What an amazing woman. The book is really phenomenal. The documentary is going to probably be as good, if not better.
Yeah. Look, she does, of course, she's in the middle of the ocean going through crocodile-infested waters. Yeah. She's in the Great Australian Bight, notorious for great white sharks. Whoa. So she deals with all those things as well.
It's all in the book.
It's all in the book. And her writing is first class, And that's what I asked her when I was talking to her in the author session that we did at the library. Where did you learn to write? Was that something that came later? And evidently she was right into it when she was a kid. So this is a passion for her as well. She journaled all the way around as well. So, no, just incredibly brave.
Yeah, amazing.
And both of them. What a great relationship story of support.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's us for today. We're
that
cooked.
is.
Stick a fork in me. I'm done.
Thanks so much for listening.